and welcome, Lynx here, and we are sitting to what seems like a little bit of an old school English themed game. A Yuri game. From ebi-hime, Ren'Py Bush, Ren'Py Mulberry Bush. I totally did mingle the title the first time. Ren'Py Mulberry Bush. I also checked on YouTube, and apparently, well, this video will be lost behind some cartoons with very similar title. Anyway, let's check it out. Where is the mouse? Commence. 1789. The first summer. On the first summer, my life changed forever. It was not the first summer of my life, of course, for I had lived through 12 summers prior, and this was to be 13th. It's crazy to think that back in the day, this was like the age where people would actually marry and so on. And again, I guess, the lifespans were shorter, and so on and so on. It was, however, the first summer that I met her, and my whole life started anew, just as the melting winter snow heralds the coming spring. All the days and months and years that preceded the long string of ones were summers like stagnating pools, kissed to matter. They were nothing more than a dull noise, a background hum. Unimportant. Everything was, and is, utterly unimportant when compared to her. Sounds interesting. The summer we met was warm, and as all summers with her seemed to be, free from icy chills or unexpected showers. I remember too the sunlight that filtered down from above, intercepted by the leaves, dancing across her face, her skin, her hair, her flickering fireflies. That was the first impression I had of Matilda Addison. I was in awe of her beauty, even back then. Cioè, mate. That's definitely some forest fruit juice on her hands, right? She wasn't perfect though. In fact, she was far from it. She was nothing like the little girl I saw in the portrait later, hanging above the fireplace, enshrined within a gilt frame. She was rumpled, eyes wide like an unbroken colt's. Loose curls fell around her shoulders, framing her heart-shaped face, catching in the glorious summer sun. Please tell me it's forest fruit juice. And of course, there were her cheeks, her lips, her fingertips. They were harsh, unmistakable black red, so intense I could almost believe she had been digging her fingers inside the carcasses of the dying baby bird. But no lady would have done such a cruel and terrible thing. And she was undeniably a lady. I mean, if it was pigeons, I would not be like, don't do that. I was painfully aware of the fact that she was only 9, I 13. Wow. And I was far, far taller than her. She looked at me curiously, tilting her head to one side, but there was no shame in her face, no anxiety, no awkwardness. She did not seem upset by her appearance, disheveled and dirty though it was. It's interesting. Like, I would say now the color on the face of the dirt is actually of dirt. So just a change of distance changes The color, sort of. Then again, we see the fruits on the trees now, so I guess it really is. Instead, she observed me chewing on a mouthful of mulberries. I was right, pushing them from one cheek to the other. But how is she so there? I could only stare at her, caught into silence. My fingers trembled and I had to clench them into fists. I was afraid. This little girl, in her white dress with her messy blonde hair, had managed to unnerve me. I wonder what I should do. She had never met me before, and she had no idea who I was, though I knew who she was. And that seemed horribly unfair in my mind. I might have been old enough to work and sweat and swear with men more than thrice my age, but it had not been so long that I had played at being a knight, a soldier, a brave hero with the boys who lived down the road. Thrice your age? Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. Too much of a difference. That childlike naivete still clung to me, like the dewdrops on the morning grass. My head was full of dreams, my heart full of hopes. She may have been the daughter of a noble, but she was just a little girl, and she would be lit when she was cut like I. She deserved to know my name when I knew hers, an equivalent exchange. But I was deluding myself if I thought my name was worth as much as her own. She would have been accustomed to being known. She was, after all, of noble stock. Her family was not the wealthiest in Lancashire, but they were wealthy enough. We are in Lancashire. Lancashire, nice. I wonder how much money her dress had cost, and her socks, and her shoes, and the strip of crimson ribbon that decorated her hat. It was probably more than my family earned in a year. It was more than I would earn in 10 years. Huh. It is kinda sad when you consider it. How some of us will not be able to see the money some people are like easily earning. Anyway, it was disgusting. So disgusting I could hardly bear to look at her. Her dirty face, her smeared fingers, and the rumpled folds of fabric that comprised her summer dress. I remember feeling small and slighted. Despite my recent growth spurt, it felt like she was judging me. If I knew I was being foolish, she was just a little girl. Far littler than me. But the gulf between us, our social status, was an insurmountable chasm. Yet I had been arrogant enough to assume my name was worth anything to her. Why should I have been? I was just another servant, and interchangeable as the seasons, undistinguishable from the rest. As if she would care. But though I had always loved reading fantastic tales of chivalry and romance and daring-do, I somehow managed to read her all wrong. She swallowed a mouthful of fruit pulp and fruit juice, her delicate throat convulsing, and wiped her lips with the back of her arm. The juice streaked across her cheek, across her wrist in a red ribbon. A defiant statement. She did not seem to care. Nice. So, mister... Wait, I thought it was... This is not a Yuri game? No way! Oh my... Here we go, Lynx not reading descriptions of the game again. Haha, what a surprise. Weird, I got so used to ebi-hime making Yuri games that I did not even realize. Alright, let's go. So, mister... My breath caught in my throat and I found myself feeling dizzy, lightheaded. The birds that chirped in the nearby trees fell softly silent, at least they seemed to. In reality, they were still twittering away merrily just as before, but I had drowned them out. My own anxieties had silenced them. And then I took a sip of tea, considering we are, indeed, in England. My heart was beating so hard I worried it might rupture. We hear the beating sound. Wow. For 2 beats. She seemed unaware of my plight. Perhaps it was because she was accustomed to seeing servants, lesser beings, struck down in her presence. She'd been brought up with a silver spoon in her mouth, and I could hardly imagine how different the world she lived in was to my own. Underneath the blue sky, the green trees, the black, red juice, and pulled up on her fingers were even brighter, more brilliant to her eyes than mine. "Did you come to eat the fruits too?" she asked, her voice lightly innocent, like she did not know I had come here to serve her. I glanced at the withered old mulberry tree, the branches groaning under the wave of those dark fruits. The girl had harvested an expansive crop on her own, but there were yet more fruits to be had. Far, far more. Maybe it was because I was feeling anxious, but I found myself recalling something my mother told me a long time ago. "You shouldn't eat too many," I told her. "If you do, you will get a stomachache." The girl replied, slightly lackadaisical. She seemed to ponder the point, but only for a while, and then tossed it aside carelessly with a small shrug. "Well, it's too late for that." I suppose it is. I conceded, running one hand through my hair. "How many berries have you eaten?" "I don't know," she replied, digging the tip of her shoe into the dirt. For the daughter of a noble family, she was incredibly grubby, and not just a little, around the edges but all over. Her dress was stained, and her shoes were tarnished with splotches of dirt, and there was a rim of grime beneath every single of her fingernails. All of a sudden, I did not feel afraid of her anymore. She might have been a lady, but she was what my mother would have called a mucky pup. I mean, to be fair, even with all those differences and so on, like status or whatever, it's stupid to think it matters, I would say. All in all, it's all about a person. If they are like... I don't want to say normal. But if also they don't care about that, right? If they don't, that's cool, really. Anyway. "So," she said in her fun little voice, far too serious. "Do you want some?" I mean, I don't know if I should. I mean, I'm just a servant. "I've not seen your face before," she said, peering up at me, as though she had only just realized. Did she think I was trying to trick her? "Who are you?" "Oliver," was my simple response. I was a simple boy, and I did not feel the need to elaborate. The girl nodded seriously, as for trying to commit a Shakespearean sonnet to memory. Her cheeks puffed out like they had done when they had been stuffed with mulberries, and I found myself smiling despite myself. "Okay, Oliver," she said, once her brain had thoroughly fertilized with this piece of knowledge. "You are a servant?" "A stable boy." I don't know anything about horses, though. Make sure you watch out for crabapple. What a weird name. She bites. "Thank you. I shall keep that in mind," I said. I wish I was wearing a hat so I could tip it for the small act of benevolence, but I was not, so I could not, and I did not. My father also worked here as a stableman. You might know him. "Oh!" The girl's eyes lit up. It seemed she did know him, because she clapped her hands together. "Are you related to Eddie?" That's right. Oh, good, she said. I like Eddie. He's nice to me. He tells me a lot of stories, and he always makes sure to keep crab apple. A sugar cube. Even she's being naughty. And does he slip one for you too? Shh! She held back a black red finger against her equally black red lips, her eyebrows furrowed. That's supposed to be a secret! Alright, I apologize. My mistake, I will not tell anyone. She looked at me archly. Make sure you don't tell Mommy. She says I shouldn't eat too much sugar. She thinks it will spoil my appetite. I think she's right. I'm sure she wouldn't want you eating all those mulberries either. The look of intense concentration was back on her face, and she pondered, rocking back and forth on her heels, but not for very long. She turned the skirts of her dress, fluttering, reaching up on the very tips of her toes to the boughs of the tree, and nimbly twisted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mulberries off the branch with a well-practiced hand. Shut your eyes, she told me, her tone stern and authoritative. And take what Providence will send you? I asked. Her brow furrowed. Please take this seriously. There's no time to recite nursery rhymes. I laughed. I apologize, I could not help myself. Huh? She scolded. It was probably a technique she had learned from her mother, like I had learned hurried concern from mine. Maybe that was why I found myself obeying her, for she was shorter than a pixie. Obligingly, I let my eyelids fall shut and waited. And waited. And waited. And continued waiting. As I waited, I could feel sweat bedding on my back, beneath my shirt. The wind tousled my hair, and the sun beat down on the nape of my neck. Stretch out your hand, was her next instruction, and I did. I extended my arm, the palm facing upwards, and she deposited the 5 black glossy mulberries upon it. I blinked, lashes fluttering, and looked down the spoils in my palm. She must have pierced one of them with her fingernails, because they leaked black red fluid onto my skin. Okay, I said I didn't want any, I told her, but she wasn't having none of it. No, she said firmly. You eat them, you have to. Why? I asked. So you can't startle on me to Mommy, she said, as though it was that simple and that took care of that. If you try, I'll tell her you picked the mulberries first and you told me to eat them. I mean, if that is your plan, you shouldn't have told me it. I'm hardly going to fall for it now. Well, I'm not going to eat those mulberries, she said stubbornly, turning her nose up in the air. Somebody has to. I mean, I can just drop them. The birds will eat them. Please, no. Don't do that to yourself. Don't feed the birds. God damn it. I know you're not in the time of cars and so on, but don't feed your freaking birds. Not your, but don't feed the birds. I beg of you. All the neighbors that feed birds should be smited. Something like that. Anyway. Don't you dare, she said crossly, stamping one foot against the ground. I give them to you. It's a present, and it's rude to refuse a present. I was beginning to feel like those mulberries were more akin to criminal evidence than a lovingly prepared present, but I did not want to upset her, not on our first day or first meeting. It did not seem worth it. Even back then, I did not want to upset her. Alright, I said, trying to placate her. I'll eat them. Will that make you happy? It would be acceptable. Fine, then here goes, I said, and tipped back my head and dropped the mulberries onto my tongue. They were sharp, tart, and when I bit through the skins of the blackberries, bitterness spread through my mouth, making the tip of my tongue quiver. Maybe they needed a couple more days to ripen, to become sweeter, no more palpable. But she was an impatient girl, and she would never have waited for something like that. She wanted the berries now. She had to have them now. Even their flavor was too sharp, too pointed, like a knitting needle through the roof of the mouth, and they made her stomach churn in the night so she could not sleep. She never thought about the future. Spirited, some would say, if you were inclined to be kind, like some of the servants who did not have to interact with her on a frequent basis. Impetuous, her mother always said with a pained sigh. I just thought she was stubborn. She might have been.
So this is our little secret, right?
She asked with a smug little smile. She was so pleased with herself and her cunning, one would have thought she had managed to dupe a gentleman detective. Well, who was I to spoil her fun? I'll start to enjoy it myself. That's right. Our little secret, I said.
You won't tell Mommy, will you?
She asked, her eyebrows furrowed over her bright green eyes. I took one step backwards, as for shocked by the mer's suggestion, and said, I would not dream of it, milady.
Good,
she said, and then she paused, thrown, stealing in the tip of her shoe against the ground.
But you don't need to call me that.
What?
Milady.
But I am your servant.
I know, but I don't like it. It sounds strange,
she said, pouting. She did not elaborate on why it sounded strange. Maybe she did not have the words to express herself, but I think I understood. We're not so very far apart in age, and after I had eaten those slightly, just for years, I had eaten those slightly underripe mulberries. Maybe she thought we had made some kind of bond, a pact. I had promised. Well, what should I call you then? I asked her.
My name,
She said simply. She said so many things simply. Then and now, as for she expected the world to bow to her every single whim. She was the kind of girl who would say,
I wish it would stop raining,
and sincerely believe that it would. In fact, she would be offended if it did not, because she was used to getting her own way, and the mere suggestion that some facts of life could not bow to her every whim was preposterous to her. Unthinkable. She was spoiled, horrendously so. But that, if anything, only endeared me to her further. Your name? Alright, I said with a small nod of my head, as for it was not important. As for I was not overstepping my bounds, my rights, and acting far beyond the station of mere Stableboy. Maybe she did not realize what a great sacrifice I was making for her. Maybe she did, and she just did not care. It is nice to meet you, Matilda. That smile that spread across her face was so wide, so dazzling, it made me wonder whether she was a human girl at all, and not an angel descended from heaven, that bathed in blood of innocence. It looks like that, let's face it. Really, how could I hate her? I have never hated her, not for a moment. For there have been times where I have wished I could throttle her. What? Or smoke her with a pillow. Why? Or strangle her with her own hair. Why? Because she can be so thoughtless and insensitive and selfish, but... hate her? Oh no, I've never hated her. She was far too bright, far too bold. Far too beautiful. Oh boy. 1790. The second summer. By the second summer we had become closer, and I had begun to learn more about her. I gathered even the smallest details. I gleaned to my breast, selfish and secretive like a squirrel storing away acorns in the hollow of an old oak. I ought to know everything about her, completely and utterly, skin and blood and bone. What? Is that not what friendship is? Pretty sure you fell for her. Foolishly, I really did believe that we were friends. As I discovered, she absolutely hated her tutors. Whenever it was time to play the piano, or practice her needlepoint, or conjugate her French verbs, she would be off like a shot, quicker than a hair fling from a hound. Kind of understandable. I would also run away if I had to learn French. It did not take me long to learn that she would hide herself away amongst the overgrown, overly green trees in her garden. She had so much garden, it seemed like an insult to describe it with such a minute terms. Huh. It was more like a field, a forest, its very own country. Nice. When Matty wanted to hide away, from the rest of society, with their chamomile tea and coiffed hair and compass airs, she would melt away into the landscape and become just as inconspicuous as any other tree or bush or shrub. It was impossible to find her. Impossible for all but myself, it seemed. She sat on the boughs of the old mulberry tree, her dirty skirts pulled in her lap, racked up about her legs so her thighs pressed firm against the bark. She did not seem to care for. It never bothered her. She was never a very ladylike lady, more wild child than innocent angel despite my first impression. That's better. That's nice. All in all, it's good that she has personality. The painting above the mantelpiece had smoothed out her flashing eyes, her pointed lips, her almost perpetually furrowed brow. It had turned her into something she was not. Perhaps something her overbearing mother would have preferred she was. Maybe that was why I devised a nickname for her. It seemed to capture more of her essence than Matilda ever could. A name assigned by her mother, Lady Addison, in the hope she would one day follow in her footsteps. I meanwhile prayed that she never would. He totally fell for her. Hello, Matty. Are you being naughty again? Matty, high on her perch, rolled her eyes and plucked another mulberry off the tree. She twisted very deftly with the tips of her pale white fingers and popped it into her mouth.
So what if I am?
She asked, her words indistinct through mulberry mush. She talked with her mouth open. Her mother hated when she did that. Wait, what? How do you talk with your mouth closed? Huh? I think what he meant here actually was she talked with her mouth full, if anything. That's something I had to be honest. I knew it was improper to address her so informally, especially when I was a mere servant, but how could I not? Servant or no, we're friends. I thought we were. You should not hide from your mother, Matty. She just wants the best for you.
Well, I don't wanna,
she answered, still slurring her words through a mouthful of seeds.
It's so boring.
But she's just trying to turn you into a lady. Don't you want that to be a lady?
I'd rather eat the dirt.
Well, I never had tutors, you know. I taught her leaning against the trunk of a tree. My parents would never be able to afford it. She sighed wistfully.
Lucky.
I think you're the lucky one. Not many people can afford to have an education.
You're only saying I'm lucky because you don't know what it's like,
she said, puffing out her cheeks.
It's so boring.
You should be grateful for every opportunity you have.
But why should I need to know French?
She made exactly. She demanded, kicking her legs back and forth through the empty air.
I'm never gonna go to France.
You know, it's in 21st. I mean, in 2023, I would definitely prefer not to go to France. Ever. You don't know that, and what's wrong with France? What wrong? Let's not get into that topic, okay? if you don't know what's wrong with France, try to find an article lately about a football tournament where France played Germany. You will find out what the heck is wrong with France. Let's continue. You can go somewhere else. It might be nice to go abroad. I mean, somewhere else, definitely.
No!
She said firmly, her voice unusually harsh for such a little girl.
It would not!
And how do you know that?
Because it's filled with French people!
I mean, the real French people. Well, I guess they would be okay. Well... I scratched my sunburned cheek with a finger and tried to suppress a smile. It didn't work. She had such a neat little way of phrasing things. Her words clipped and her voice taut that it was impossible to argue with her. It was impossible not to get drawn in. You might have a point there, I said, and then I started to laugh.
I'm always right,
she replied, and though she was usually so stoic, her lips drawn into a line, she smiled too. Leaned against the trunk of the mulberry tree. My head tilted back. I could see her sitting above me, her legs kicking, and her strappy shoes glinting in the summer sun. I wouldn't mind going to Europe for, I said, staring up at the blue sky and white clouds. I wondered briefly if the sky was like this in France too, or if it was even bluer. Dude, choose a better country. What about the stars in the night sky? Or more like, safer country. What about the stars in the night sky, twinkling coldly resolutely above our heads? Were they the same? Were they any different? To be fair, at least Italy lately seems to be like, finally taking care of things. So, soon Italy should be a good, like, place to trip to. While Spain and Portugal are probably okay. I think Germany, in some areas at least, should be doable. Switzerland is definitely okay. I think... what else? Finland should be okay. Denmark should be okay. Ireland should be okay. Ireland, I think, is okay. Scotland, probably. Sweden seems dangerous to go to be honest now. Why am I talking about that? It was pointless to ponder, given I would never be able to go to France, but dreams were cheap and reality was often disappointing. Yeah. Matty frowned.
Why?
Don't know. It would be an experience.
Well...
Matty reconsidered, still letting her legs sway to and fro.
Going to France would be awful if I was with Mommy or Mrs. Montagu or my tutors, but maybe it would be alright if I was with you.
Huh? So that was how it was it? There was a clear you and them split. Me on one side, everyone else on the other. Her mother, nurse, and tutors were all dull and blunt and boring, and not worth Matty's time or attention or even affection. All they received were pursed lips and rolled eyes. But not me. Why was I different, I wonder? I was different. I was special. I had to duck my head to hide my flustered cheeks. 1791, the third summer. By the third summer we had become closer still. Matty herself had not changed, at least not to a great extent. I suppose she was slightly taller, her eyes a touch narrower, but her features were more or less the same, just shifted slightly to accommodate for the coming and going of the year. Her hair was just as blonde, beautiful, radiant, and it continued to fall about her shoulders in a wild, messy tangle. Her eyes were just as green, bold and piercing like those of a cat's. Her manners were just as unpolished, and there was something almost feral in the way. She shimmied her way up into the welcoming boughs of the old mulberry tree, digging her fingernails into the bark and hauling herself upwards, while the soles of her shoes struggled to find purchase. In terms of her appearance, she had changed, yes, but it was so slight that the change was hardly noticeable. In terms of her personality, she had changed not at all. She was no different from the young girl she had been back when I first met her. Cheeks and fingers and the folds of her dress smeared with black red fruit pulp, and I was glad of it. I was so glad I could have cried. I thought she would mature as time went on, like the mulberries in her much-beloved tree. The mulberries were sore to the taste during late springtime, but they would ripen, becoming fuller, richer, sweeter in the midst of the summer heat. I was afraid Matty would do the same. I did not want her to be sweet. The sweetness of the lady was not truly sweet at all. It was false, a winner to wear amongst others, for the sake of social etiquette. Yeah, I can see that. I far preferred her when she was so sour. It made her easier to interact with. It made her feel less like an unmatchable, unreachable image, Lady Matilda Addison, and more like an equal. A girl I wanted so dearly as to call a friend.
Are you sure? Just a friend?
If she was not my friend, if she was not Matty, I would never have dared to address her so casually, as I often found myself doing during those long summer months. Are you sure you should still be wearing that old thing, Matty? Matty, resplendent on her perch in the trees like a colorful bird, only rolled her eyes in response. She was always rolling them round and round inside her sockets, inside her skull, until I worried they would fall out. Of course, it would have been more practical to worry about Lady Addison pinching Matilda's arm, leaving red welts for her insolence. Also, it's the first time she was not dirty right now. I was never very practical. Sensible, maybe, but practical? No, I was far too busy dreaming. I must have inherited it from my mother, a dreamer, not a doer. Welcome, fellow dreamer. In any case, Matty was rolling her eyes. I can remember that clearly.
You sound like my mother,
she told me dryly, her feet kicking back and forth through the empty air.
Are you my mother?
I am not Lady Addison, no.
Then do not talk like her,
she said, pearl spouting. What a child. What had I expected? She was only 11 years old, on the cusp of girlhood, eyes white, fringed with blonde lashes, perhaps a little more world-weary than she liked to let on. She was more intelligent than she acted. Matty always had been. That was probably why her tutors got so angry with her mother too. All that wasted potential. Huh. But I preferred her like that. I worried if she threw away the attachments of her childhood and learned how to sew a comforter and sit up straight when she played the piano. Then she would realize just how far beneath her I was. Then she might have never wished to speak to me again. I'm not trying to talk like your mother, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, level, non-accusatory. The same tone I might use when trying to coax Crab Apple, who was almost but not quite as ill-tempered as the still little girl who wrote her.
Do not nag me then. If you do, I shan't speak to you anymore.
I winced. It stung. She may not have meant it with malice, but it hurt. I let my voice fall to a whisper, my gaze fall to the ground. If I stared, I thought I could almost see the ants as they trekked through the grass, bathing in the squashed, sticky carcasses of all the pulped, overripe mulberries, rotting in the summer sun. But they rotted so sweetly. The smell was almost dizzying. I don't want you to get in trouble.
I always get in trouble,
said Matty carelessly. Matty her tangled hair and closed hands, and the mysterious bruises that seemed to flourish across the backs of her legs, her arms above the elbow, her clavicle and collarbone. Lady Addison always asked Matty, voice stern, how she came to have quite so many bruises, ugly things that they were, and Matty would always shrug and say that she did not know. Logically, I knew it was because she was always outside, roughhousing, climbing trees and riding horses and jumping over gates she could have easily opened, but sometimes I wondered. She never let out of any exclamations of pain when she was busy playing, so I could never tell when she had sustained injury. Maybe she couldn't either. Her bruises seemed almost magical to me, talismans, as though they had been smeared across her skin by pixies, goblins, elves. I hope it's not goblins. Elves. Sometimes I found myself staring at them, especially the ones of the backs of her knees, just barely visible when she fussed with the hem of her skirts. She didn't like wearing skirts. She said they were a pain. Lady Addison said that she was a pain and either gave her a look called a size or a pinch. Being a child of someone of a high status must be a pain too, to be honest. She's showing that. Couldn't you try to get into less trouble for... I asked Matty.
And be a bore who sits at the piano and combs my hair 100 times before I go to bed?
She countered.
Is that what you want, huh?
I swallowed. My salvia felt far too sweet. Salvia? Saliva. Too cloying. There was far too much of it. It wasn't what I wanted at all. I didn't want Matty to drift away from me. I wanted her all for myself. Every last bit. Every inch of skin, every single bruise. Even her individual eyelashes that meshed together when she blinked. Even the freckles on the bridge of her nose. Even the patches of sunburn on her cheeks, praised pink by the relentless summer sun. But I didn't know how to put it into words back then, and even if I did, I would not have been able to say them. It hurt too much. Is there anything more painful than being unable to express yourself? Maybe. I don't know. Anywho, I think this might be a good spot to end the episode. We'll continue tomorrow. We'll see where this is going exactly. And where this friendship, relationship, or whatever is in planned is going to go. Hope you all have a wonderful day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.